Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today it's sap boiling day. It's early in the morning. I got out here by about 6:30, maybe 6:45. Started setting everything up. I'll walk you through the process, but essentially the gist of it is you just take the sap you've collected for the past week or two or whatever, however much you've collected and kept cold, and you just boil it until you boil most of the water out of it. And bring it down to syrup. The more water you boil out, the more sugar you're left with. You'll see it start to turn brown and then darker and darker. You can get like an amber color or whatever, but basically today I'm just going to sit by these pots and watch them boil. There's different methods of doing this, right? They have evaporators that are basically just big giant pans that you can use to kind of have more surface area to evaporate the water out faster. For me, I don't do that huge setup where I'm making gallons and gallons of it. I basically make enough for me for the year, maybe hopefully the year, depending on how much I collect. This year I only got about 25 or probably about 23 gallons of sap, which usually I like to have closer to 30. But it is what it is this year. The trees, basically, the buds are still tight up in the top of the trees, but they're for some reason just stopped. The taps dried up, so it is what it is. I started a little late this year, so it's my own fault, but pretty much I'm gonna keep boiling these today. Like you've seen earlier, I run the sap through a filter before I do it. Once it's cooked down, I filter it again, and then before I bottle it, I filter it again. Probably don't need the third filter, but I just always do. I filter it every time I pour it from one container to another, essentially, just to make sure I'm catching anything that may have fallen in the pot while. Obviously I do this outside while I am cooking, or when I've collected it, or once I've cooked it down. Just anything that could have been in there gets filtered out before I bottle it so that it's pure syrup in there. Yeah, so I use propane. You can use wood over a wood fire. That's kind of the traditional way to do it. I use propane just because it's easier and you don't have to maintain the fire all day long. You just turn it on, set your burner to exact temperature and or heat setting, and let it go. I might do some wood fire in the future, but for now, this is where I'm at with it. So yep, that's where we're at today. I'll film as much of the process as I can where it's not boring for you, but it's basically going to be me out here all day kind of manning these pots. It does, like, when you start boiling it, sometimes you'll get like a foam on the top. I tend to skim that off. I don't know that you need to or not, but I always do. So I just kind of skim the foam off with a spoon or something, throw it off to the side. But that's pretty much it. I'll be sitting here and then sit next to the fire, staying warm today. It's probably 32 this morning, so it's not too bad, but when you're out here all day. It rained all day yesterday, so the humidity's real high, so it's just cold. So I'll sit by the fire, stay warm. I got a cup of tea over there brewed up. Come back when we're basically kind of cooked down and we start getting into a deeper process, but for now we're just going to keep adding to it. As you're adding the sap to the pots, you want to add it, let it boil down an inch or two, add a little bit more. You're supposed to kind of, in the sake of efficiency, have your sap kind of pre-warmed before you pour it in the pot, so you're not pouring like ice cold sap that's been sitting out all night into the pot. Bring that temperature down, because then it has to work to get that temperature back up longer, right? But it is what it is. This is the first year I've had 2 burners go the entire time, so it might be quicker. Usually it's an all-day event because I'm boiling out of this just one pot. But this year I've got the 2 pots going, so we'll see. Maybe I'll cut down the time, hopefully in half, and it will only be a half day thing. That would be nice, because every other year up until now I start at 8 a.m. and I'm finishing up around midnight or so. There's always a nighttime, me with a headlamp on, trying to see if we're up to temperature yet. So, but as you add it, try to add it in smaller segments because it's so cold, so that you're not bringing that temperature down in the pot too low. You're just adding a little bit. So I tend to like wait till it boils down an inch, maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches tops, add a little bit more, and just keep that process so that it gets back up to a boiling temperature faster. So, yeah, I'll check back in when I've got some more done. All right, checking in. It's been probably 2-3 hours now. Been sitting by the fire reading a book, drinking tea, but every once in a while, about every 15-20 minutes, I get up, add some more sap in to the pots and keep boiling it. I've got about, maybe 9 gallons left of sap in the buckets, collection buckets things. Whatever, can't think of the word. But I've got about 9 gallons of sap left to boil that aren't in the pots right now. And then there's probably another 6 to 7 gallons in the pot right now. So the one burner, the burner I usually use, is working very well and is not using a ton of propane. The burner that I borrowed, I just don't think it's for this. There's a lot of space between the burner and the pot that you can't seem to like get that down. So I feel like a lot of the heat that I'm losing a lot of the heat to the sides, and it's just chewing through propane really fast. This tank's, I feel like, it's almost empty. So I'm probably gonna have to get that refilled soon, but I'm gonna let the other one go. And what I might do, if I can get them all, the rest of the 9 gallons in the pots, then what I'll do is I'll just boil the rest of the small pot, or my burner in the smaller pot. I'll have that continue to boil, and I'll feed from that pot into there. It's working, but it's not as efficient as the other one. So I think for next year, I'm gonna buy another one of these burners, and get because it just seems to work a little better. It's just a turkey fryer burner, but I don't know, it's got like a heat shield around the burner itself, and it blocks some of the wind. I think it's just more efficient. I'm not sure. And the burner's a lot smaller too, so it uses less propane. But I mean, that one is boiling now too, so I kind of got some old cement board and broke it up into pieces, and I've got it around the burner, trying to trap some of that heat in and focus that heat more up towards the pot and not out into the air. Yeah, I'm just kind of enjoying the day. It's warming up. The sun's up now. It's probably mid-40s by now. It's kind of warming up, so I'm just kind of staying by the fire and keep feeding the fire and reading my book and watching this. It's starting to smell really good. I'll show you some shots of it in here in a second, but you'll notice as you start cooking, so it comes out clear as you pour the sap into the pot initially, right? And as you start cooking it, it starts boiling off that water, and you keep adding more and more to it, obviously, but it starts boiling the water off, and you're left with the sugar, essentially, right? And that sugar starts to caramelize, and that's what gives you that brown color for syrup. So it starts caramelizing, so you'll start noticing the sap in your pot is starting to turn brown. That's okay. That's what you want, right? So the one pot over here is definitely a little darker. The other pot that hasn't had a hot enough boil, I don't think, is still fairly light, but still already getting that caramelized color. So that's about it for now. I'm just gonna keep at it here, and I'll come back when I've got the other 9 gallons in the pots boiling, and then I'll bring you back probably when we start to get near a finished boil. So Finish boil is where you're starting it to get it up to temperature. You don't want to go past that temperature. You'll wind up with like molasses, and if you keep cooking it even further, you can end up with like a sugar and stuff like that. But you gotta be careful you don't burn your pot. So yeah, when we get to like a finished boil, you want to get it to a certain temperature, and then in that range it can go pretty fast. It's like how thick you want it, how dark you want it, you know, and a matter of cooking it down. So I'll be back in a little bit when we've got more sap in the pots. All right, 7 o'clock at night. We've been boiling this for 12 hours now. We're finally down all 20, what did I have? 23 gallons of sap is boiled down to this final pot, which has roughly 3-4 gallons in it. So what I'm going to do now is watch it boiling. I've got a thermometer in here. I want to get this up to 211 degrees. We're hovering at 200 right now, but as the water boils out, that temperature is going to start to go higher. We want to bring it right at 211. We don't want to go much higher than that. And then to test it, we've got some stuff. I'll show you that. So we're going to keep an eye on this. We've got another hour or two. Okay, so to test this, I've got this little test tube thing, just a little funnel on it, so I can do it. Basically what I'll do is ladle out some into this, fill this up, and then put this special, it's called a Brohm and Brix for maple syrup thermometer essentially, but basically what it does is it tests for the sugar rating in hot temperatures or cold temperatures. So we're going to do it at 211 degrees. We want to be somewhere in this range, right? So usually the lower we want it to be lower, the sweeter, the higher the sugar content. So we're just going to keep boiling it at 211. Once we get to that 211, we want to really maintain the heat, turn it down, and just keep cooking it off till we get in this range where we want to be. Basically, I'll fill that up, put this inside, and it'll float up to the top. And that's where we'll take our measurement. Now we just sit and wait and watch this pot cook away. To kind of show you what it looks like at this point, this is the color that we have, kind of a nice amber color to it. So this foam here you'll see throughout the cooking process. If it bothers you, or you know, it could start looking a little brown as this stuff kind of steam kind of hits it, you can just kind of skim it off like that. And I put it in this little kind of bucket thing I've got here. So we're getting a nice color to it. It'll get a little bit darker as it goes down, but it should be a nice finished auburn color like that. It's already sweet. The whole yard, the whole woods pretty much smells like hotcake syrup right now. And that smell will get even stronger as this water starts to cook out here in this last few hour or so of boiling this out. So we'll see where it goes. Like I said, right now we're at 200 degrees, letting it boil away here. I don't like the second burner. It was nice, I mean, but it took me a while to figure it out, but I went through a tank and a half of propane throughout the 12 hours, which I guess is not terrible. But this guy has been running off that single tank of propane since 7 a.m. So it's 12 hours and still going strong, and I still feel maybe a gallon left. So this burner is very efficient and has been running really well all day today. So I'm going to invest and buy another one of these for next year. This was nice. I appreciate, you know, my friend giving me this and letting me use it to cook faster, because normally I wouldn't be to the finished boil stage like this until like 11 p.m. So here it is, a little after 7, and I'm already boiling it down. So I'm hoping to be up to temp and good to do a final filter on it, hopefully by 9 o'clock. Then I can move into the garage, put the heater on, and I won't be freezing my butt off out here. I can do a final filter into the other pot. Basically, I'll clean that pot. I'll pour it from here into the other pot with a filter on it, and then let it cool down to, in that pot, to, I'd say, I don't know, 110, 120 degrees, and then I'll bottle it from there. So we'll see how much we get. I'm not expecting a whole ton this year. You know, I'm just not. I bet you this is going to boil down to maybe 2.5 quarts or so. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Other people are saying the sugar content's pretty high this year, so maybe. But we'll see. The trees just wasn't happy with how they were producing this year. I just joined too late, or I tapped them too late. So speaking of which, I'm gonna go collect my buckets off the trees, get the taps out. Those holes have already dried up, so they're not leaking anymore. In previous years, if you pull your taps and you're still dripping, either A, just keep boiling and collecting. But if you're done boiling and you're done collecting, sometimes I'll take a stick that's like just that size, that hole, and stuff it in there real hard. You know, take a little mallet or something, stick a stick in there real well, and then snap it off, and that'll plug the hole up and seal it up. So, all right, well, I will come back when we hit 211. All right, we're at 211 degrees. The sugar content is up. Now I'm just going to pour it from the pot we're boiling it into a clean pot, run it through a final filter. So I'm going to do that while it's hot so that the syrup's thinner. A few drops. Spring water jug. Okay. All right, we'll get the rest of the stuff out back while this is cooling. Yeah, we're down to 150 now. Looks good. We didn't get much. We got maybe 2 quarts. All right, guys, we're back. Sorry, but the other night while I was putting everything or getting everything ready to bottle, all of the footage that I filmed of me bottling it, filtering it again, getting it all capped up and stuff, all got corrupt and it's all gone. So I'm having to reshoot this now. This is 2 days later. But essentially what we did, we got 2 boxes full of syrup plus 2 more bottles. So what I do is I bottle all my syrup in 100 milliliter bottles like this. So they're small little like whiskey bottle type things. I feel like this is a perfect size for me for what we use it. This gets you 2, 3, sometimes maybe 4 meals out of it, depending on how many you're cooking for or whatever. But it's a perfect little size. Throw in the fridge, throw in your backpack, whatever you want to do, wherever you're going. This is like a good size bottle. Sometimes I talked about putting labels on them this year, but I didn't. So, but essentially there are 12 bottles in each box. So like I said, I've got 2 boxes full of those done, and then there's 2 more bottles of this. So in all, I got 26 bottles. So that is my syrup for this year. It wound up being just over a half gallon of syrup. So just over 2 quarts essentially. So what do we have? 23 gallons of sap boiled down to just about 2 quarts. So it is a lot of work for a little bit of payoff, but it's worth it to me because like nothing tastes like this to me. Like this is just, it's natural. It's I made it, you know, and it tastes better than the corn syrup with maple flavoring that you're going to buy at the store, or you know you're going to pay for real authentic maple syrup. So that is it. 1 more year of syrup making in the books. I got enough. This should be enough to last me the year. You know, it's just 25 bottles or whatever. 1 bottle usually lasts me, you know, 3 weeks or so. So, you know, I don't use a ton, but it's enough to get me through. The kids don't like real syrup, so they use all the Aunt Jemima stuff and everything else. So, all right. Now it's time to, everything's washed and cleaned. There's the pot and all my other stuff. And then over there, I've got the burner in that box. I've got a whole bunch of stuff in this tote over here. And then all those jugs are washed out. And then the blue sap buckets in the corner are all washed out, ready to go back up into storage for another year. All right, so that concludes how to make maple syrup out of your own maple trees in your backyard. Appreciate you watching. If you like this type of content, please subscribe down below, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment. Do you do yours differently? Do you use an evaporator? Do you boil in a pot? Do you use real wood, propane, charcoal maybe? I don't know. How do you bottle yours? How do you store yours for the year? Let me know. Like I said, this is more of a hobby to me. There are people that have, you know, much bigger productions out of this. There's people I know that they cook out of big copper pots over fires, and they have like specific wood they burn and stuff. So it can get fairly serious. You know, for me, a little hobby just to make enough to last me a year. Maybe share some out with some friends and stuff. So. Once you do open it, I store mine in a very cool place, cool dark place, kind of down in the pantry, in the cellar kind of thing. And then when you do open it, just put it in the fridge. It's good to go. So just make sure you get it up to temperature before you bottle it, you know. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one.